These days, people are very polarized, very split into camps. So I've made a few videos recently about left and right, and a few people have commented in the comments, and I take their point that this talk about left and right can be a bit overly divisive and put people into a box to say, well, you think in this way because you're right wing, and you think in this way because you're left wing. And I take that critique on point, and it's actually something that I want to discuss, because I think it's a really important danger that we have in certainly Western societies, but across the globe really, is how tech giants in particular and social media companies more specifically are contributing to this divisiveness and this apparently inability for people to see the viewpoints of others that might be different to themselves and to evaluate them, and for us to engage in dialogue, you know, and for us to engage in conversation. So I want to talk about that a little bit in this video.
Back in March, we conducted an experiment here at LBC to see the sort of content that you get in your algorithm as a 13-year-old girl. And we were absolutely shocked by the results. Pretty early on, we were being served content linked to self-harm, linked to depression, and even suicide later down the line. Now, we wanted to return to that to see 6 months on what's changed, what's hopefully improved. So we're going to set up an account posing as a 13-year-old boy this time. So the first video is a deal on energy drinks, which is interesting. Not what you'd really expect, I suppose. Second is holiday content, a bit of a sunset, which is all very nice. Third, now I thought this would happen. This is school starts soon. I really do not want to go to hashtag school vibes. So that's what you'd expect as a 13-year-old boy in September as well. Then I'm getting a video of a cat with big eyes. A Jet 2 holiday joke, which have been present all summer.
Sharks in Crete.
Okay, there's now some lads on a holiday talking about whether you can get sharks in Crete. So far, it would seem the content is pretty harmless. Let's keep an eye on this over the next few days to see what sort of content I get. Right, I've been scrolling for a couple of days now, again, posing as a 13-year-old boy. I've got a Curry's advert, something to do with a headache. Now, this is where I'm surprised by this. So I'm getting Britain's most racist man, asking Britain's most racist man your questions. And the first question he asked him is, what's the worst race? So let's stay with this for a minute. So he's talking about hate crimes and the fact he won't say on camera what the worst race is. Let's carry on in this vein, see what we get.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday. Right now, you can save £50 per...
Wow.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
Just gonna listen to that again.
Right now, you can save £50 per...
Well, that is it's a video of migrants, asylum seekers on a dinghy, and they're using that Jet 2 holiday theme that's been pretty concurrent with the summer. But I'm pretty sure they're saying the P word. You can save £50 per P word. Just going to look at the comments there. There's a lot of people out there not realising this is AI. Well, it's clearly AI. Deport is another comment. Someone is using the P words. Get in. Wow. I mean, this content has changed very fast.
Go back home. Go back home.
I'm now getting something from Gammon Crew, which is about 100 men all wearing the Union flag as clothing, and they're chanting at about 10 dinghies, saying go home. This is all AI generated, but to show this to a 13-year-old is quite concerning. I'm quite surprised I'm being shown this. More Jim.
Help you today, Abdul?
My name is Jamal, actually, and I'm looking for a suit.
That's great, Abdul. I've got just what you need. How can I help you today, Abdul?
So he's
Jamal, actually.
calling him Abdul, even though he says his name's Jamal. It's an AI video. Another migration one. A group of about 12 migrants, asylum seekers, come out of a puddle, and people are shouting that that's a shortcut. They come out in their dinghy. I'm getting videos of people protesting, shouting, get them out, at the West Drayton hotel, a West Drayton hotel, that is an asylum hotel. So I'm now seeing what was live footage, I presume, of people protesting, all wearing St George's flags and chanting, "Get them out." So that's the sort of content I'm seeing at the moment.
Now, this is a really clear and obvious example of how the algorithms work on these platforms. Now, I've been on YouTube for nearly 20 years. No, you know, I had another channel before this channel. This channel has been in existence since 2009. It's 2025 at the time of recording this video. I remember there was a time where you would just go onto YouTube, you would subscribe to a channel, and then you would always see the videos from that channel as they were released in your feed. Then YouTube started to shift, along with all the other social media companies started to shift, and started to take more control over what you would see on the platform when you logged in. And so we started to hear conversations about the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm, and this is the set of rules and, the set of rules that the program that YouTube has to basically feed you certain videos based on your previous watch history, based on what they think that you will like, based on what you've previously watched. And in some ways, that's a really good system. I've found so many brilliant music, excellent music on YouTube as a result of these algorithms, when they piece together the fact that I'm into reggae, I'm into dancehall, I'm into house music. I like a little bit of even indie and guitar music and Afro beats, and and they'll piece it all together and be like, oh, well, based on all of this, you might also like this. And some of it's brilliant. So that's good. That's a brilliant thing. However, when it comes to more serious matters, so politics, that's where things have got really bad, because what you have is you might watch a video. Say you watch a video on, so I like Maximilian Robespierre, good channel. I watch channels like that sometimes. Left-leaning, critiques of the political right and populism and stuff. But what happens is when you watch one of those videos now, YouTube will say, "Oh, why don't you watch?" And they'll find more and more creators like that. And once you're hooked in with all of the thumbnails and the titles and the all that kind of stuff, then before you know it, you are in this rabbit hole. You're in this rabbit hole of the same viewpoints, and in some cases getting more and more entrenched all the time. And what that does, this is happening to everybody now. Everyone is going onto Instagram and TikTok these days. Everyone's on TikTok these days. They're going onto there and straight away, oh, look at this. Look at this, look at this, look at this. And it's, as you saw from that LBC video, children are being, it's like, I mean, in the case of that LBC one, the default was, oh, you're a 13-year-old boy. Well, here you go. Here's some anti-asylum seeker, anti-refugee content. But the problem is that we are going down these rabbit holes. We are living our lives. We are, permanently online. I'm online now. Even right now, I've got a laptop behind me there, which has got a YouTube video on pause. But we're permanently online, and what's happening is that we are in these bubbles of reality, of pseudo-reality, and we're getting our understanding about the world around us from looking at YouTube, from looking at TikTok, from looking at Instagram. And to move things along a little bit, the point is that I think we're losing the ability to engage with ideas that we don't agree with. I do it as well. I've just really this last day or two kind of had my latest kind of awakening that I need to get out of this little trap that I'm in, and I've started to subscribe to some channels that are not necessarily, I know that I'll watch and I'll hear stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. But the point is, if you're going to, my dad's like, he always used to buy the Telegraph, the Daily Telegraph. And then when I got old enough to sort of like understand that, well, the Daily Telegraph is more of a right-leaning paper, and my dad was definitely not, he was more of a left-leaning person. He still is. And I remember asking him, why are you always buying the Daily Telegraph? Thinking, why don't you just buy the Mirror or the Guardian or something? And he said, you know what? I want to understand what people on the other side of the political spectrum are saying. I want to understand what the capitalists are saying. I want to, he wanted to understand what those who have the political elites and economic elites, what they're thinking, what they're saying, what their ideas are. And that was brilliant. I wish I'd have, I need to start to follow that approach, because, I mean, why? Why should we do? Why is it important for us to hear other viewpoints? Well, firstly, I think one of the most important ones is that it might turn out that your own viewpoints need challenging and might need to change. And, this is a scary thing. It's a scary thing, and it's an annoying thing to have your beliefs and your viewpoints challenged. So with religion, some, not all religious people, but there are some religious people who will not even think about getting into a discussion about their own belief, their own religion, about their theology. They won't get into a debate about it or a discussion about it, because it's just, no, what you're saying is wrong. That is just of the devil or whatever. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of us, when it comes to politics, have that kind of mindset as well with regard to politics. We won't even sit down and even, say me, I'm a more left-leaning person, always have been. But people like some of us won't even sit down and watch a half an hour, video of Nigel Farage laying out his political ideas, or Tommy Robinson, or even not even going to those kind of people, even just conservatives, or people who are not necessarily labeling themselves as anything, but some of us won't even sit down and hear, for example, people who vote for reform sit down and say, okay, well, let them talk about what it is that why they vote for reform. And the same on the other side as well. A lot of people who wouldn't want to, it's all these labels, leftists. Oh, it's leftist, fake news. There's an inability to, and an unwillingness to challenge our own beliefs is one of the first problems. Then also there's I think, if I'm honest with you, I think there's a level of people attach themselves to certain beliefs and certain ideals and certain positions, not really on the basis that we have carefully evaluated all of the different evidence and we've come to this conclusion, but more so on the point of, we've heard a few sound bites, we've heard, oh, these people are far right, and we've just said, right, cool, just ignore everything they say, they are far right, they're racist. Or, on the other side, oh, these people are leftists, or these people are cultural Marxists. And so ignore everything that they say, don't agree with anything that they say, because they come from the wrong camp, from the wrong tribe, political tribe. And I think that as a result, we build up these political positions and ideals and ideas on very shaky ground. We don't really have any deep connection with these ideas and beliefs, but we just believe them anyway, just because, we've gone on TikTok and all the social media feeds we've got are saying this, so this is what we believe. Or we've got one or two kind of basic hang-ups, say with regard to immigration, or race. There's some people who've just got basic there are too many people here. Haven't spent any time digging into whether that is actually the case. When they say there are too many people, what does that mean? Or when they say that, immigrants are taking all of our jobs, some of these guys have never really sat down to say, well, is that true? Are they actually taking jobs from indigenous people? Are they committing more crimes than any other group, and that sort of thing. And so I think the second point I'm making is that I think there's an inability to actually engage in political discourse that is a problem. And then thirdly, there's a wider problem. I think that the general nature of political discourse in this country is very, very base and very wafer thin. If you listen to today's politicians, right, and then go back 50 years, I watched a video. I remember listening to a video. It was a debate. I think it was between Michael Foot, the old leader of the Labour Party, who today would be considered a crazy radical, communist socialist. He was a leader of the Labour Party. And Enoch Powell, who is infamous for his Rivers of Blood speech. And, he was a very racially oriented person who was very opposed to mass migration. Oh, I say mass migration. He was very opposed to non-white immigration. That was his thing. But when you listen to this discussion between them, and you can tell these are two people who are intellectually, intellectually heavyweight in comparison to today's politicians. And they're speaking, and they're both speaking in very eloquently, very considered ways, getting into very niche kind of topics. And they're respecting each other's viewpoints, and they're going back and forth. They're disagreeing, but they're doing so in a respectful way. And I came away from that discussion thinking, well, fair play. Do you know what I mean? These are people who are serious. These are not people who are looking for likes, looking for to go viral with just some soundbite. And that's what we have today, unfortunately, with today's politics. And we have a problem generally in societies, Western societies in particular, where I just think people are intellectually way below where they used to be 50 years ago, where we used to be 50 years ago. Politics is dumbed down. It's all sound bites. It's all things that are just hooks and words and phrases which will just tickle people's ears and play into people's deepest, darkest fears. Everyone, and I just don't think that people even are engaging anymore with deep political topics to do with economics, to do with political systems, political economy, political science, all these kinds of things. I just think we're in a very dumbed down situation, as generally speaking. And the tech giants have got a lot to do with this. The tech giants, it's no surprise to me that Elon Musk was at the head of that march the other day. And that march, by the way, the Unite the Kingdom march, look at the speakers at that march. This doesn't come out that much. Look at the speakers. These speakers are either like extremely extreme radical Christians, very anti-Muslim, anti-Islam Christian speaker, or proponents of remigration, which is sending back all the immigrants and their descendants. These are the people that we're talking about at this march, and Elon Musk was at the head of it. Elon Musk has turned Twitter into a cesspit. It was always a bit of a cesspit, but now it's just open season for extreme racist, xenophobic, extreme sectarianism. That's the word, is what you get on X these days. And I think this serves the interests of the social media giants, because ultimately what you're getting is that these tech giants are basically tearing us apart, all in the name of them getting their profits. They were ecstatic with Trump becoming elected, and you might be a Trump supporter, but please have a look at the people who were there sitting with him. Are these people representing you? The Bezoses and the Musks and the Zuckerbergs. Are these people representing you, really? Are they there representing your interests? Because I don't think they are. Are they there? And another thing I want to say about these tech giants as well is that they are pushing these algorithms onto us, as we've seen with that TikTok example. 13-year-old boys are getting fed with AI-generated, extremely dodgy, far-right content. Actually, far-right content. I know these days there's no more far-right, because that's not far-right to say that we want non-white people to be deported from Britain. That's not far-right. Well, for goodness sake, if it walks and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a bloody duck. Some things are just what they are. You can call it what you like, but this would be called far right if it was 40 years ago, 30 years ago. And they're feeding this AI slop as well. Look at the enshittification of the internet. Look at that term, enshittification of the internet. The way that there is so much AI content, so much, that voice, there's that narrator, that AI narrator that's, you would not believe what happened, or you would not believe what just happened, what he said, that narrator. That is taken over YouTube. Shorts are taken over YouTube. AI generated slop is taken over YouTube. It's taken over all the other social media platforms as well. AI slop seems to be taking over the internet. What's all this in aid of? Is all this in aid of the well-being of people in general? Or is it in aid of the profits of the tech giants at the expense of the well-being of people in general? I would suggest it's the latter. And I would suggest that we've got a real battle on our hands across the political spectrum. Those of us who are, yes, we disagree. We disagree when it comes to fundamentals about economics and social matters, cultural matters, and so forth. But there's one thing I think we need to unite on, and we need to have a united stand on, is that we cannot let this very tiny percentage of the world's population, very, very tiny percentage of super, super rich who own these tech, companies and who own these social media platforms, we cannot allow them to basically take over our minds. Because if they do, we're going to end up in a situation where we are where people are just going to be stupid, pacified, fearful, and it's going to be like the Matrix. Basically, we're plugged into this Matrix, generating profits and labor for our tech overlords who are going to rule it over us. So tech will tear us apart if we let tech tear us apart. Let's not let big tech tear us apart. That's just my thoughts on that. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. So let me know in the comments what you think. I've got other videos on my channel which you might find useful. There's one here which YouTube's algorithm will suggest. And also there's one here which I think follows on nicely from this topic. All right, take care of yourselves and I'll speak to you soon. Peace.